Last week I recast this little elephant in wax. This week we're going to take the wax sculpture, change it, modify it, turn it into a new version of itself, and then cast it hollow. Stick around, I think it'll be fun. I dropped the elephant into Procreate to map out the changes I want to make. A little bit of planning goes a long way towards getting the job done quicker. I want to make it look less stylized and a little more natural. So I'll reshape his ears, open his eyes, and raise his trunk. Also, there should be a big knobby hump on the top of his head, and I want to take off the tie blanket. With all that done, I think I can claim it's a new design. In the end, I will have modified just about every surface on the sculpture, except the tusks. I've collected a bunch of sculpting tools over the years, but really, most of my work is done with just a few favorites. Blades are among the most useful sculpting tools because they can be used for both cutting and scraping, and that lets you make big changes and remove a tremendous amount of material really fast. There's this myth among elephant art collectors that says that a raised trunk is good luck and one that's hanging down is bad luck. So whenever I've sculpted an elephant, I always raise the trunk. I transferred the shape to a block of wax, and I could have cut it out by hand, but I've got a jigsaw, so I might as well use it. This Hegner jigsaw was one of the very first tools I bought when I built my shop. It's over 40 years old and still going strong. It's often useful to shape small pieces before you weld it onto the main body. So here I'm tapering the trunk down to the tip. It's just easier and faster to do it this way. Everyone always asks about the wax tool that I use. It's a Fordham wax carving pen. Unlike soldering tools that run way too hot, this tool is designed specifically for working with wax. The base of the tip is really hot and it melts wax fast, so you can build up and fill in areas surprisingly quickly. Here I'm welding on a piece of wax to build up the top of the head. Again, I'm always looking for the quickest, easiest way to get the work done. Okay, this is where we got to so far. I think he's coming along nicely. This is one of my most interesting homemade tools. It's made out of bass guitar string. It's got a rough surface, so it acts like a fine file. It's just perfect for filing and smoothing small wax sculptures. Another important tool I should mention are my headband magnifiers. They are essential to me. Without them, I could no longer do toy sculpting. I wear them all the time, and they make it possible for me to keep working. With the carving basically done, my technique for smoothing is a Q-tip wrapped in fine steel wool and dipped in lemon oil. It works remarkably well for smoothing and polishing wax sculptures. And there's our boy pretty much done. Time to build a box and throw some rubber around him. I built this mold case over on the table saw out of scrap wood, and you might reasonably ask, why didn't you just reuse the mold case from this mold, the first mold? Why are you building two mold cases? And the answer is, I didn't think ahead. Frankly, I built the first mold case out of cardboard and I tore it apart when I took it apart. So now I got to build another mold, but fortunately, it only takes a few minutes to do that. But that's a classic example of not thinking ahead. I built the box out of MDF covered in plastic laminate, so I'm not going to need any beeswax or any other kind of sealer, and the box is sturdy enough that 2 clamps will hold it together perfectly well, and we won't need screws or any other fasteners. Just nice, easy, and simple. I'm adding exactly 1 drop of accelerator to a small batch of rubber that I mixed up for sealing the edges and sticking the sculpture to the case. And that will cause this rubber to cure fast so I can get on with the business of pouring the mold. I should also add that I used the same rubber to pre-paint areas of the mold, like around the eyes, small details where I thought there was a possibility we could catch bubbles when pouring the mold. Blowing on the rubber like you see me doing here helps push out the bubbles. And pre-painting is a great technique to have in your arsenal and one you should remember when you need it. Everything is looking really good down in the mold, and check this out. It's only been a few minutes and look how much the rubber has already gelled. That accelerator is amazing stuff. And it can really speed up your workflow. But if you put too much in when you pour a mold, you run the risk of having the rubber set up in the middle of the pour. Okay, I got the vacuum pump going. Let's mix and de-air some rubber. Pour the mold from the bottom up and let the rubber push out the air above it. You often scrape the cup to get the last of the rubber out, and that mixes air in. And that's those bubbles you see at the top there. Don't worry about that. They will rise out and pop and cause you no problems. I let this mold sit overnight. It is ready to go. Let's cut it open and see how we did. The case comes apart without any problems whatsoever. No worries there. The cut is likewise simple, just straight down the middle, nice and jagged, and 2 crosscuts between the legs. The amount of resin I mixed up was a guess, just based on experience and eyeballing, and I went with 20 grams. It's a fast-setting urethane resin with some red dye mixed into it. I don't want a slow-setting resin because I'm going to slush cast this by hand, and I don't want to be doing that all day. I need this resin to set up pretty quick. What you want when you slush cast a mold by hand is exactly the same thing you want when you put it on a rotation machine. You want continuous, random motion. Put in enough resin to evenly coat the inner walls and keep it in motion so that it doesn't have a chance to pool or fill up any one side of the mold. All right, let's see how we're doing here. Got the old witness cup going here. It's pretty hard in there. But it's hard. It'd certainly be hard enough to pull if it was solid. But this is a hollow casting, and these walls are super thin. So yeah, I think we'll risk it. Whatever. We'll see what happens. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Let's pull it. We don't want to mash it. We don't want to squish it. It came out good. Came out pretty easy. No problems, no damage. Let's take a look and see what we got. Well, right away, I can see we got some pretty wicked flash between the legs, but that will clean up easy enough. And, yeah, see some bubbles there, right about where you'd expect them, out at the points, out at the ends of things. I think with some good technique, we could avoid them in future castings. Otherwise, pretty clean, pretty nice. Gorgeous parting lines, hardly anything. Yeah, I'm pleased. Pretty good. Nice casting. In my far-gone youth, one of my wild hair ideas was to go into the Christmas ornament business, and if you don't believe me, here's a few eyelets left over from that project. But they'll come in handy today making this little hanging elephant. I just guessed where the balance point would be and punched a starter hole with my X-Acto blade, and the eyelet screws in easily. All right, here's our kid, looking good, nice and light. Just get him patched and painted and he'll make a pretty cute little ornament. If you like this video, watch this video next. If you got value from the video, use the Super Thanks button down below to make a one-time contribution or join my Patreon. The link is below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.